complacent. I think that's the best way to describe.
Yeah, like you know the deal.
Yeah. And I was around. I could have been a part of that stuff, but I have a big reason
Some people are smart.
why I'm not. Well, it's just, yeah, I mean, I got called a bitch a lot for it, but it was like,
You just kind of knew.
it's like this, like I can see where this is going, and it's not anywhere I want to be, you know. And I would say I'm lucky, but you'll find out why it's like it's misfortune, and but also luck at the same time. What I saw at a young age, and it kept me from getting involved too deeply in that stuff.
All right. So you just heard me preach. Thanks for listening.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll just get straight into it. If you don't mind just telling me your first name.
First name is Sean.
Awesome. Can you see me straight?
Yeah, I can see you. Yeah.
Could you just tell me a little bit about your childhood?
Well, I had a pretty chaotic childhood, I would say. I was born in Aurora, Colorado, at home, in a little kiddie pool, and I was the only one of my siblings that was home birth, and I was mixed race. My dad's Mexican, my mom's white of Bohemian heritage, and a little bit of Irish, I think, in there too. And my family is Scientologist family. And this is a Christian country that's mostly white, you know. So being mixed race and a Scientologist kind of just made me a weirdo, you know, like a weird kid. And I was pretty crazy myself. I mean, I had a traumatic incident when I was 1 year old. So we were living in Missouri at the time. And my sister, I think she was just being born or had just been born. But the story, as I've been told, is we came home from shopping and I ran into the kitchen and climbed up onto the counter and was messing with the light switch, and they told me to get down, and I tried to get down and I fell off the counter, and my mom had a crock pot on the counter that had been cooking all day, and when I fell off the counter, I pulled the cord on the crock pot and the whole thing fell on top of me. And so I got 80% of my body was covered in 20 or second degree burns. And then 40% is covered in third degree burns. So you can't see it too much because it's cold, but I got the scar on my neck and it's on both shoulders, lower back, and there's like a little one here. So it's like right above my butt crack is one of the scars. And I don't remember any of it, but I died from cardiac arrest, twice in the ambulance and one at the hospital. I didn't even know that until I had to get my medical documents for joining the Navy when I was 17. And so I didn't know any of this. I didn't know that I had died before. I know that I got fucked up, but I didn't know that I had actually died. And yeah, it was a 3-month coma, drug-induced coma, and I don't remember it at all. And I was reading the reports, and it was saying that he has trouble recognizing things, recognizing people, slow motor function, you know, all these issues. And you know, I've always kind of had an anger issue. My parents were saying that, like, before I got burnt, I was kind of a calm person, and then after I got burnt, I was very angry, like a lot. And I don't have any pores on the burns or anything, so like when I'm working out or anything, I've been jogging for a while. You'll see like soaked in sweat here, but this will be completely dry, and it gets irritating because you can't fucking breathe. Your skin can't breathe, and it's supposed to. And I think that like constant discomfort has always kind of been like a constant frustration that I just deal with, that I've learned to deal with, and it's my reality, you know. So, but I had the nickname of the Tasmanian Devil when I was little. So I just wrecking everything and fighting people, and I was funny too apparently. But just a bit of a wild kid. And I got I got an older brother who's a year older than me, and a little sister who's 3 years younger than me. He was born in Oklahoma, and my sister was born in Missouri. And I would say they were my childhood friends because we moved around so much, as you can tell from all our different locations. I was basically in a new place every year, and I still do that. Like, I joined the Navy and everything. I was a different place every year. Outside of the Navy, I've been in a different place every year. So, I kind of like a Rolling Stone mentality ever since I was a kid. And I can't remember too many friends growing up, really. I was good at making like short, superficial friendships for the moment, and people tend to like me way more than I like them. And it's just like they're like, "Oh, he's my friend," and I'm like, "You're all right." But yeah, I let's see, was born in Aurora, and then we moved to Missouri. I moved to back here to Colorado, and then my parents got divorced, and so I was about 5 years old when they got divorced, and they flew us out to Mexico to live with my abuela at the time, and it was Cuernavaca in Mexico, and it was we were there for the whole summer while they were getting divorced. So we didn't know that was going on, but when we came back, my dad sat us down and gave us a talk, and he's like, "Look, we're gonna be separate." He was like so depressed, and I was just like, I didn't have any empathy as a kid, so I was like, "Oh, cool, I get 2 Christmases," and he's like, "Fuck you, kid." And so my dad is an interesting guy. He's what's the twin sign? I think it's Gemini. Yeah, Gemini. So he's got two main personalities: super strict, and then he's got always joking. So he's like a joker, but then he could also be like a military general. And like we got inspections on Sunday, and that was like a carryover from him being in the Church of Scientology, in the Sea Org division of that. And so they were modeled after the Navy, and so they had inspections every Sunday. And so we grew up with white glove inspections as kids. So he would, and like things the kid wouldn't even think to clean, like the top of the blinds or whatever, he'd go like, "Nah, do it again," and we spend the whole fucking day cleaning. And he made sure that we stayed clean. And that's something I still like. I respect it now. I hated it as a kid, but I definitely respect it now. And then my mom, she's a bit of a free spirit, a little disorganized, but she likes to have fun and is always trying new things. And so it's interesting because you have my dad who is like super clean, and then my mom who's not so clean, and like once they got divorced, it was like two different worlds going back and forth to two different worlds. Like my mom's, I could do whatever I want, but I wasn't really sure. Like there wasn't any structure. And then my dad, it was like too much structure, and I'm like, oh my God, just let me chill out. And it's funny because when I came back from the military, he's like, I think I might have been too hard on you. I was like, you think that? And he still says some funny shit from like he can't help himself. I'm sure he's got his own trauma he hasn't worked through yet. But after my grandpa died, which was recently, it was on December 25th or 26th, or the day after Christmas, he died. And my dad came to help, and he's super empathetic and everything, but he still couldn't help but talk shit. So we're like cleaning out the house, and he's like, "You're trash," and like get in the dumpster and stuff like that. And it's funny because I actually ended up having to go in the dumpster to like push the trash down, but like he can't help but talk shit. It's just how he is. But yeah, so that's the dynamic with my two parents, and then with my siblings, we were always fighting. We got along sometimes, but like I think until my mom discovered audiobooks, and like any car ride or anything, just constantly fighting. Especially me and my sister, always at each other's throats. It was exhausting, really. But they were able to play the audiobooks to like calm us down and stuff. But I was a violent kid. I was very angry. My siblings like to tell the stories about like how I got mad at them and threw knives at them and things like that. And I don't know, from my perspective it's all justifiable, but it's I can remember the anger, the frustration and feeling powerless all the time and wanting to do stuff and all the adults like, nah, you can't do that. And just like being shut down all the time. And so I would say a significant thing that happened in my childhood
As a
is
kid, did you have any dreams or
dreams.
aspirations?
I think the first one I had was to be a police officer, actually, until I met my first police officer. I didn't want to do it after that.
Um, as far as your relationship with your dad, would you mind talking more about that? As far as like while you were growing up, how was that relationship, and how did that relationship generally feel?
I felt very oppressive as a kid. I was scared to talk to my dad. Um, he was able to give off that intensity that don't fuck with me kind of thing. But I definitely still fucked with him. Like it's just like it has diminishing returns. Because here's the thing: is I was the scapegoat between my siblings. So if something went wrong, I was typically blamed, and I got my ass kicked for it. And when you didn't do it, it kind of changes your attitude. Where it comes like a lot of kids, like I have a totally different mindset than a lot of kids. Like my little brother trips me out because he's like, that's against the rules, so I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who gives a fuck about the rules, But that's how I was honestly conditioned because I got my ass kicked regardless of what I did. So if you're guilty, it's different. If you're innocent, it's different. And so I'm not gonna say I was always innocent because that's not true, but I was innocent enough for me to be like, I don't deserve this at
Yeah.
this moment. And he's way bigger than me. I can't do shit. And like honestly, like even now, I would never raise my hand against my dad. Um, and he never like broke any bones or anything like that. He just beat the shit out of me. Nothing too serious. But like it just made me feel powerless. And yeah, he's definitely changed over the years. And it's really weird to see. I never saw him give like affection um, to any of us or to any woman that was in his life until recently. I was like, yeah, 20, 26, the first time I seen him kiss a woman. And then dance. I never seen him dance before, and now he's dancing and stuff. And he's totally different person now. But he was super controlling then.
He's gotten better.
Yeah, it took a while, but yeah. Yeah.
What about your relationship with your mom growing up and how that felt a little bit more?
Um, my mom, her name's Angela, and to me, she was like perfect when I was a little kid. But as I became a teenager, certain things happened with my stepdad and with my sister, and um, just the way I saw things being handled. And then my mom had a way. I mean, she's super nice, but it's like, you know how like people could be nice, but they're doing it because they want you to do something. So my mom, I mean, we did a lot of chores. Like I put down tiles and stuff when I was like 10 years old, and demolishing stuff. And to me, it was normal. But yet I talked to other people, and they're like, I didn't do any of that. Like they didn't do any housework until they were like on their own, which is crazy to me. I remember in the Navy, I met this guy. He's 18. He's like, how do I use a paintbrush? And I was like, like just put the paint on there and go up and down. It's not that complicated, man. Like you never painted a fence or anything? And he's like, no, I never have. I'm like, what the fuck? But yeah, so she put me to work a lot, and it got frustrating. My main grievance with my mom was the situation with my sister and stepdad, and how that was handled. And I just like, if you want me to do something for you, you can ask. I don't need the manipulation. Like, hey, can you help me out for like 5 minutes, and then it turns out the whole day I'm helping you, and then it's like, I had shit I wanted to do today too, mom. So it's just not like being considered. And so I still talk shit about Scorpios because of my mom. Like, you can't trust a Scorpio.
What's the biggest thing you learned from your parents, good or bad?
um, I would say from my mom, I learned to stick together in times of trouble. Um, I bitch about my family a lot, but when shit goes down, I mean, it didn't always when we were kids, but when shit goes down now, we close ranks and work together. So I think that's cool. And I would say that's the main thing I learned from my mom, as well as, be open to things and explore things. And one of the biggest things that she contributed was nutrition. She's always kind of made that important. And I was always a large kid, bigger than most of the other kids. I was born at 11 pounds, which my sister informed me is 1% of the population, less than 1%. So I was a pretty big ass baby. And then she fed me like barley water and all that stuff. And so I was big, and like she made nutrition very important when we were kids.
Could you tell me about your first love and how that felt? So your first love can be a person, a thing, it can be a hobby, whatever you associate as like, you had that sort of connection.
First love, I would say, was a person. Her name was Lauren Sargent. I know people are like, you don't have a girlfriend when you're 3 years old, but she was my girlfriend when I was 3 years old. She was five. And I remember that because it was my first kiss. We were at one of the events, and um, I was sitting around the curtains, and she came from behind the curtain and like tilted my head up and kissed me like that. Um, and so it was like Spider-Man and Mary Jane, except I was Mary Jane, you know. But I just remember that I don't remember too many specific instances besides that kiss, and I don't even know how long that I knew her for, because we had to move away, and so it's just like, who gives a fuck about a 3-year-old's relationship? We gotta go, and so it's just gone after that.
What about your first loss or heartbreak? Same thing, whatever you associate with that and how that felt.
Um, yeah, my first heartbreak I got when I was 10. Um, so we had a cousin that came to live with us, um, off and on since he was like 15, because his mom was into, you know, loser men, like, or gangsters, and like all into drugs. And he's from Modesto, California, which is known for its meth. But they also make 5.11 shirts, so they got some positive things. But it's it's a lot of drugs and gangs. And my cousin was a norteño, um, and he came out here and he taught me about art and graffiti and kind of like the darker side of life. And he was addicted to drugs, which I didn't know at the time, but it's kind of clear now. Um, but I loved him. He was my hero. He was like Superman. He was athletic. He could jump and climb anything. He was a smart ass. He could talk shit in circles around people. Um, hopping fences. He was like the bravest guy and the strongest guy, and I really looked up to him. And so in 2004, he uh, he went out one night. I think it was a Friday night, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to this graffiti warehouse." And I remember that day because that's when Pirates of the Caribbean came out. We were all watching it in my grandparents' place, and I remember standing in the entryway of their house, being like, "Can I go with you?" Because I just wanted to follow him everywhere. And he's like, "Nah, little man, see you later." Right? And he didn't come back that night, which wasn't too weird because he tended to disappear from time to time. Um, but the next day, I was playing video games at the front of our house, and or in the front room of our house, and I remember I was super excited. I wanted him to come home because I had created my first graffiti piece that I didn't copy from him. So I was like, I can't wait to show him. And I got a knock at the door, and my mom answers it, and she starts crying. And then I go up, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "Josh is dead," and then ran away. And I'm like, "What the fuck?" I feel like I just got kicked in the chest, you know. Um, and the detective's there, looking all dark, his hair slicked back, and leather jacket and everything. And I was like, "What happened?" You know, like I'm just like in fucking shock. I couldn't believe it. Um, I didn't believe it for years, really. Um, but he had been murdered. Um, he was in Globeville, or yeah, is it Globeville in the Five Points? Um, in that area, that's where they found his body. Um, and it was brutal. Like he had been beaten and stabbed, and then they stripped his clothes off and lit him on fire and threw him in a dumpster. And so I never saw the pictures, you know, but I read the description of what happened to him, and yeah, it was fucked up. Like it's still unsolved to this day. It's a cold case. I actually became a private investigator to look into it because I'm literally being left on red by the cold case police department here in Denver. There's the cold case department at the yeah, I'm fucking up my words here. But yeah, so the detectives, they won't answer my calls, they won't answer my emails. Um Basically not cooperating with me at all. They wish me the best of luck though, and encourage me to become a private investigator. But yeah, his death itself was fucked up because there was no answers. But I would say it was the reception of it from my community that hurt the most. Um, keep in mind I'm only like 10 years old. I wasn't like there's fully grown adults that have people murdered that can't fucking deal with it. 10-year-olds, I couldn't fucking deal with it, and I just had to go back to school like it didn't happen, you know. And I'm like, he's fucking dead. Like, like can we talk about this, you know? And nobody wanted to talk about it. And it's like a dead body under the rug. I can't ignore it, you know. It's like it fucking stinks, you know. Um, and so I was upset. I was mad at the world. Like no one cared. Like especially other 10-year-olds, like they want to talk about their shows and their TVs and playing games and stuff. And I'm like, my cousin got murdered, and they're like, oh my god, like they didn't want to. Like they gave me a wide berth. Like stay away from that depressing kid. And it's so fucked up. Like even in high school, like I was super depressed after that, and I kept to myself. Was very reclusive, very angry, and what I was doing wasn't healthy. I was ruminating on revenge, but it's blind fury because you don't even know where to direct it at, and that's the thing. Is just that any person that becomes a problem for you at that point, you direct all that fury to because it's like I've been cooking for fucking years, and you want to be a problem right now. I'll destroy you. Like I don't give a fuck about you, and it's not a healthy mentality to be in because it's not their fault, you know. But I didn't know that at the time. All I could think about was just how fucked up it was, and no one was like, "Oh, this kid's in grief. He needs therapy." They're like, "He has behavioral problems," you know. Like he's like they tried to put me on Ritalin and stuff like that. My mom refused because it's part of the Scientology thing to not take a lot of the pharmaceutical drugs, specifically the psychiatric drugs. Um, But yeah, there was no reason. Like, I should have gotten like at least a week off or something from school. Like I had no business going back there. And I remember even high school kids. There was this girl that invited me to a party, and I had like no enthusiasm. And this is like a key developmental stage where like you're getting out there, supposed to be socializing, supposed to have these romantic relationships, but I completely imploded. And so she invited me to this party, and I was like, nah, I really don't like parties. And she's like, oh, you're fucking gay. Like, oh, you're a faggot. I'm like, no, I'm not a faggot. I'm just fucking sad. And it's like, not being understood by other people really made me feel alienated and kind of like fuck everybody. And yeah, I would say that was my first heartbreak, and I didn't handle it very well. And that's when I started. But you know, that's when I started doing graffiti myself illegally. Shoplifting, um, getting into fights with anyone who I felt disrespected me. Um, but I did keep a wide berth from the gang shit, because of that. It was, I can't prove it or nothing, but I have every reason to believe that what happened to my cousin was gang related. And, and so, I mean, there was that enticement, I would say, with the drugs and the girls and everything. Um, but at the same time, I can't ignore the murders, you know? Um, and that was the biggest thing to me. Prison actually wasn't that scary to me because I was an artist. So it's like, I'll just become a tattoo artist in prison. I'll be fine. But a bit naive, but um, it didn't scare me. But the murder definitely scared me. It sounded fucked up. Like, who wants to be stabbed and burned to death? Like, that's not gonna be great. That's traumatizing. And like, he wasn't the only person I know that's been murdered. Just by, like, when I lived in Yuma, Arizona, there was people that got murdered in the gang shit. Um, and I had the internet, and it's not like it is now where everything's kind of restricted. But like, I could look up like what the cartels were doing to people and all that stuff, and getting their heads chopped off and hanging them off of bridges and stuff like that. So to me, like, feeling so, like, seeing how society had like made us an outcast just by my cousin getting murdered. Um, like, I didn't think anyone was gonna have my back if I ran into any trouble. I always had the mentality of I'm on my own, you know, and so I don't like to go out there and start shit that I would need like six people to back me up with. Like, I don't like to get involved in that stuff because it's too much to think about. I'm kind of slow, you know, so it's like I just don't need to be around murderous people, you know.
Who would you say first taught you love and how?
I think love's a tricky one. Um, I would say it wasn't one person that taught me love, but like moments where I felt love with each person, and then I kind of compiled it together into my own version of it. It was basically respect, like, to me, love is, you allow something to be what it is, and you appreciate what it is, and that's kind of what I've learned. But I couldn't say it was one person. It's more of a collective.
Could you talk about a couple of those moments,
Um,
or one of those moments?
it's kind of hard for me to recall, but I would say one time when I was really struggling, um, after my cousin had been murdered. I was like 11, and I was drawing all over the desks. And the teacher was like, "How do we get him to stop drawing all over the desks?" And she went the suppressive route. But my older brother's homeroom teacher, she had caught wind of the trouble I was causing, and she bought me my first sketchbook. It was like 120 something pages, and man, I filled that up in like 6 months. But to me, that was love. I mean, she didn't know me, and it wasn't like intimate love, but it was like someone saw that I needed something, and instead of making me like wrong, even though I very much was, but it's just like I didn't know how to handle myself. And so she stepped in and she gave me the sketchbook. And that like I wasn't pissing off my teacher anymore. I had this free space I could create whatever I wanted. Um, and that was awesome to me.
Could you tell me about it? What's like a good day look like for you? A general good day.
Um, well, I would say today was a good day. But I like being productive, you know. My depression kicks in a lot, and a lot of times I don't want to get up, just lay in bed in the morning and listen to like audiobooks or something. And today I got up early. It's like 8. Cooked my breakfast and listening to like dry bar comedy and stuff. So it's like, and I think I watched too much profanity as a kid. So now I'm like, I need to listen to something clean. But just something fun, and then getting that nourishment in, and then I would say if I could get a little morning routine of like yoga or some kind of light exercise, that would be good. I did not do that today, but I would like to. And then I worked on my logo, so I reshaped that, and so creating something artistically, or tuning something up artistically. And then I played some video games, which was just fun. Played with my cat, did my chores and everything. Um, and then did a bunch of shopping and stuff that I needed to do, planning ahead for like art supplies and gifts for people that I was late to give them gifts for Christmas. um, and then I would tack on what I did the day prior with my little brother. And so he started getting these meal kits where he can cook his own food. And so I helped him cook the burgers. And they were like truffle butter, Parmesan beef burgers and stuff. It was fucking good with like roasted potatoes on the side. So good food, work out, create something, listen to good music, audiobooks, and that's what I like, you know.
What about a bad day and how you get through some of the things you do to get through that bad day?
Oh fuck, man. Bad days is when everything doesn't work out, you
Yeah.
know. Everybody that you got to talk to doesn't want to talk to you. They're ducking and dodging you. They're not showing up. They're broken. They're fucking stupid. Like all kinds of shit. You know, um, can't say I have the best coping mechanisms, but it's better than what I did before. I used to just blow up on people, yell at them, fight them. In the Navy, you can't do that though. So I learned a lot more diplomacy and finesse in the Navy. Um, but usually, if it's a problem, that someone's being problematic, I'll try to find where their back needs scratching, you know. And if that works, cool. If it doesn't work, then I go to a different route and try to cut them out the mix, you know. Um, I do deep breaths before I react because I get angry and I'm like, just chill out. One of the things that's important for me is listening to an audiobook when I'm alone and working, because it just gets me in like a imaginative state, and I'm not really in this world where it's like everything sucks and it's hard to do and it's like it's hot and I'm uncomfortable, because I was an engineer, so I was like you know I it's very uncomfortable. But I listen to the audiobooks and my mind's not really in my body. It's in this, la la land. But I'm 100% focused on like what's going on around me. But it's like my mind gets to play with something, gets something to chew on. It's like a cat that needs a chew toy. So like that's I keep my mind occupied with whether it's music or audiobooks, and that helps keep me from overreacting. And then I like to talk shit and I like to smoke. You know, that's other things that I did picked up in the Navy. Smoking's not the best habit, but it did help. I mean, I guess it's actually just because it's deep breaths, you know, and you know that you have the smoke deck, which was great in the Navy. If you wanted to know what was going on, because everybody else who's frustrated is out there smoking, and you're all talking to each other, so the smokers knew what the hell was going on more than anybody else. Um, but yeah, deep breaths, you know, listen to that. It doesn't have to be like a calming story. It could be any story. Um, but I've recently been trying to do the affirmations and stuff. But you know, when you're conditioned to shut shit down, and they're like, I'm grateful, I'm strong. I'm like, no, fuck that bitch. You know, like, you know, you kind of overwrite it. But it's hard for me to believe. But you know, I'm working on it.
What's a person or an event that shaped you, good or bad?
Well, I would definitely say my cousin's murder shaped me, um, in a good way and in a bad way. I would say bad initially because it wasn't handled well, but the end result of it was actually pretty cool. What it drove me to become, you know, um, because I didn't give a fuck around that time period, and honestly, not giving a fuck is it's not great for like planning for the future, but it is great to get through stuff. You know, like a lot of things, and people get wrapped up in like the smallest things, and it's like, dude, why do you care? It does like in the long run, it doesn't even fucking matter. So I would say that in a good way, that's what it shaped me to. But in a bad way, I had like no boundaries. You know, I didn't respect people and their property, and um, you know, I think the biggest thing was how fearful it made me. And then like trying to like I'm not afraid, you know, like kind of like overcompensate for it. But it did drive me to be a great artist. I'm an artist not only because I was already an artist when I met him, but he inspired me to carry on art not only for myself but also for him because he can't do it no more. And you know, I'm very determined, and it's hard for people to get me to back down unless you have a good reason. You know, if what you're doing is unreasonable, I'm gonna be all up in your shit. You know, um, which is super useful, especially in college, which I'm in now. And people play these bureaucratic games, and I'll like show up to your office and stuff like, "What's up?" You know, and they didn't expect me to show up. It's funny to like you see like it's something I learned in the Navy too, but like with these young kids, these 18-year-olds, they're so timid
Yeah.
to me, and so like they're like, oh, I got this class I didn't want, so I'm just gonna take it. I'm like, why don't you just have them change it? Because you're the customer, it's your money. You tell them what happens. They don't tell you what happens. This ain't public school, you know, and they don't have that mentality. But it's super useful.
What's inspired you?
So many things. I fucking love art. Not like the bougie like squares and triangles that a 12-year-old could do, you know, but like anything that's like spiritual or powerful emotions, something that's educational. I love visionary art, which I didn't even know was a genre until I discovered artists like Alex Gray. He's a little whitewashed though, but it's still fantastic images of like spiritual revelations. I love hip hop. I love graffiti. I love the attitude in the art. I love the creativity I see from graffiti artists. Um, yeah, I like them way more than like Vincent Van Gogh or whatever. Like I'd rather see like a Revoke piece than something Picasso did. And I know these guys are masters and everything, but like to me, I love that graffiti stuff. And then I recently I mean, I seen it since like 2014, the movie The Book of Life. Um, but it's created by Jorge R. Gutierrez, I think. Um, and he did El Tigre, The Book of Life. Recently, he did Maya and the Three on Netflix. Fucking beautiful. We didn't get too much Latin American representation growing up. Uh, Blood in and blood out, and American Me, shit like that. Born in East LA, that was one. That was all right. But like fantastical Aztec adventures, like why the hell not? Dias de los Muertos, I love that stuff. And so seeing that stuff fully fleshed out was very inspiring to me, and I'd love to create like a graffiti almost version of that.
How does art make you feel?
Powerful. Yeah. I would say art is my world that I can create. And like I literally have like not just my personal art, but just watching other people make art, like that's fucking awesome. Like I watch TikToks of people drawing like all day. Like I fucking love that stuff because it's like, yes, I get to see what you create, but it also feeds like my whole library of possible connections that I could make. And so I never like I used to have like writer's block and artist block as a kid. Not no more, man. I never run out of ideas. Honestly, I've taken to like writing notes because like I was like, oh, that's a good one. Let me keep that idea. And like I have pages and pages of notes now.
What's been a humbling experience for you, and how did that experience feel?
Oh man. um, I've been humbled a lot by life. Every time I thought I was badass, life would sweep my legs out from under me. But I would say joining the military was very humbling for me. Yeah.
How so?
Well, because I was basically a criminal, was a graffiti artist who didn't give a shit about anything um, besides himself and his art. And the Navy was like, it forced me to be responsible. Like I didn't have my family to fall back on. I guess I technically did. I just never bothered to reach out to them. I stayed in contact with them, but I was basically on my own. And you don't really realize how much other people are taking care of you until you got to do everything by yourself. And you're like, oh fuck. Like when you realize like, oh, I'm being reckless. It's not just like a moment of chaos, but that moment determines your destination in the future. And so like, it's funny because I was known as a criminal, but like like before the Navy, and then like during the Navy, they thought I was such a square because they would do stupid shit, and I'm like, what's the point of that? Like I like every time we'd go out on Liberty, and I had to go with like 3 Liberty buddies, and they get drunk, and like people try to jump out of cars, like fighting people and puking on the floor and themselves, and I'm just like, yo, we could just drink and have a good time, and nobody needs to go to jail or get hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, how did that? What else about the Navy humbled you beyond like just seeing like all the shit you have to do now? You know what I mean? Like, what else about it also humbled you?
Well, you get to meet people from all over the world.
Yeah.
Um, well, not all over. Well, yeah, actually, all over the world. There's people from Africa, um, Chinese people that's getting their citizenship through working in the military, which I didn't even know was a thing. I didn't know that so many people couldn't swim and would join the Navy. I didn't know. Like I thought I was stupid when I joined the Navy, and then after meeting some of these people, I'm like, I'm not that stupid. But it's like the cleanliness thing with my dad. It really showed in that one. I always maintained cleanliness. I was never like immaculate, like everything pressed and squared. But like you never had to worry about me. And I like that. I pride myself in that. And there's a lot of people you meet that you have to worry about them. You be like, dude, did you shower? Like, it's another grown man, you know? And but I think one of the things, it's beneficial and it's detrimental, but hypervigilance is another thing that I learned in the Navy. Because people, when you join the military, they think that your biggest thing is somebody's gonna kill you, like shooting at you and everything. But really, your biggest danger is the idiot standing next to you. It's not, it's asymmetrical warfare. We got most of the guns and most of the weapons and armor and all that stuff. We got all the gadgets, all the technologies on our side. It's very rare that a Navy vessel gets hit. It's not impossible though. Like, it's happened with like the USS Cole and stuff. But our biggest danger is someone else not doing their job in the Navy, you know. Um, I know it's different for Marines and stuff because they actually, they go out there, and the Army too. But yeah, the Navy, like someone else not doing their job could cost you a lot, could cost you your life. And it made me realize systems and like the benefit of organizing things, like and following them. I hate rules. But there's a fucking reason for them. Like especially in the Navy, they could definitely clean it up, but like if you don't like I was an engineer, so if you don't check the fluids before you start the engine, you're already fucked up. It's part of the law that you got to check all that stuff anyway. It's part of your training from the beginning, and people still wouldn't do it, and then their engine would catch on fire, and then they're like, I don't know what happened, and it's like, because you didn't do your fucking job, and like you see that, and like you realize like a lot of the stuff is prevention. If you want to prevent casualties and stuff like that, it's all about doing that day-to-day grind. And I think I forget the name of the movie, but there's like a wise guy movie where he's like, you think you're a tough guy because you got a gun and all that stuff. Like try being a working man, and going up and doing that grind every single day. And that's what I respect. It's like it's a lot of work to just be okay, like on a personal level, but also like through the whole military. Everybody has to get up and do their job, otherwise this shit doesn't work.
So for this next question, go in your mind and think. This life event can be mental, physical, or spiritual. Can you tell me about a time in your life that you can relate with the word war?
Most of my life, man, I would say. I even got the second horseman of the apocalypse tattooed on my back, who is the horseman of war. I feel like I would say I was at war with my parents. I was at war with my siblings. I was at war with my collective family, with my local culture, with the school administration, with the Navy leadership, and even now in college, I got my disagreements with the staff at my college, things I think should be run different. And so conflict seems inevitable to me. Yeah. And it's not about destroying the other person always, but understanding that you have your unique perspective and they have their unique perspective, and you can work it out if you want to, and you can fuck each other up if you want to. That's what I've learned.
How does that war feel? Like, is that outer conflict a reflection of inner conflict, or is it more on the surface, like shit needs to get done, just take care of it, right? And that can lead to conflict, or do you think that reflects the inner state?
I think it could be both, you know. Um, it's not always as within, so without, but it's like some people, they just don't want to work with you, and sometimes you're the fucking problem too. Like things you don't understand, things that you're conflicted about. Like me being biracial, me being part of a Scientologist family but not a Scientologist, and so it's like I'll talk shit about Scientologists, but I don't want to hear you talking shit about Scientologists, you know? And so it's there's definitely the inner conflict as well, but there's also the outer conflict. It was like, look, I'm trying to do this, and they're like, nah, fuck you. And it's like, what's your problem? You know? So there's that outer conflict, but there's also that inner. I think it just depends on the situation.
So for this next question, it's the same type of question. Go in your mind and think. This life event can be mental, physical, or spiritual. Can you tell me about a time in your life that you can relate to the word peace?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I know my family's not gonna like this, but it's usually on drugs. Not so much on weed because I feel a lot of anxiety on weed, but there was a magic mushroom trip that I did that was I don't know if you want to get into that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was probably one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. And like I said before, I felt a lot of conflict all the time, and sometimes you don't even realize you're stuck in that mode until you're pushed out of it, you know. So I had this vision on magic mushrooms, and this was in San Diego, and I remember I was sitting in meditation pose, and it was like my third time meditating. I was pretty new to the whole thing. I wasn't a spiritual person because of my cousin's murder and everything, and being a Scientologist and all that. I just thought we were bodies. I really did. And so when we died, it's just oblivion. That's what I thought, which isn't the greatest feeling, you know, and it's not the best worldview to have. Um, but doing these mushrooms and stuff, I was scared. But I was also like I wanted to see. I was more curious than I was afraid. And yeah, I really saw something incredible that time.
What'd you see?
It was what they I didn't know what it was at the time, but it was called a Kundalini awakening. Um, I guess it's only when I'm high. It doesn't. I don't feel that way when I'm sober or anything. But um, I was sitting in the meditation pose, and I felt like this warm energy just like explode out from the base of my spine, and then it was like a whirlwind here, like an orgasm, but going up the spine, not out, like not out the junk. And I'm like, what the fuck? And it went all the way up, and I could see inside my spine, and there was these two serpents intertwining like that. One was purple and one was green, and they came out of my third eye here, and then they kissed in front of me. They were like holographic, and when they kissed, this golden crown started spinning like that, and the wings fluttered like that, and I'm like, what the fuck is that, right? I had no idea, and I felt so weird. I was like a river of energy was going through me, and I was like, ooh, fuck, like I was shaking, and I had this fantastic vision after that. It was like I was on these ramparts. It was like like the Great Wall of China, but it wasn't Chinese. It was like Aztec, and yeah, I was like a spirit flying over the ramparts, and it stopped at like a gate. It looked like a star gate or something like that, and I saw this like a vast expanse of sky and like what I thought were stars, but they're getting bigger, and it was like all these Aztec serpents like wiggling towards me, all like white and translucent, almost like sperm, really. And but like Aztec, Aztec dragon sperm, and and I could feel like it was like it didn't say anything, but they all like stopped in front of the gateway, and then they're like they wanted to come in to my spirit, and I was like, wait. So they're like wiggling towards me. I'm like, no. And they all stop. Like I'm Neo in the Matrix, and they're all those bullets, and they're just waiting in place. And then I was like, let's see what happens. So fuck it, come on. And all of them shot into one, and went into my third eye. And I saw it going into my DNA, like all these dragons, these fucking Aztec dragons, like Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan, and they're just like all like silver threads going through my DNA. And I was listening to this song by Naturally Seven at the time called "Fix You," which is a great song for healing. And I was frustrated with the Navy, frustrated with the my cousin's murder, and it's still being unsolved despite me trying to do everything I can. Not having my own family, not having anyone that I was in love with. Just like frustrated with life. I didn't like my job. I wanted to be an artist. I didn't want to be an engineer in the Navy. So like all this frustration. And then these dragons are in my fucking DNA, and it's like rewiring me, really. And I loved it. Like I hated what I was before, and then they came and transformed me in that mushroom trip. And while I'm listening to that song, I'm like crying, but not crying out of sadness, like crying because it was so beautiful. And I remember like not feeling that dark cloud over me. And like I was like just laid up like this in the bed in total darkness, really. And just like, I'm gonna be okay. Like I'm gonna be all right. And I never felt like that at all. I was always like, what's coming at me? Like, what's coming next? And at that moment, I was like, I got this. And I would say that would be my story of peace and serenity.
Do you still do shrooms?
Sometimes, yeah.
Not often.
I'm not sure what's happened, but I don't see stuff like that no more. Maybe I've done them too much now. Now I do a microdose with the powder. Not like once a week, I would say, just a little bit. Um, I tried doing it every day, but I didn't get the dosage right. So sometimes like I have to go mow the lawn and I'm fucking tripping out, and it's not helpful. But yeah, I microdose now.
Um, I hear those. I've heard those shroom trip stories a few times.
Yeah.
Um, and there's different variations, but I do specifically remember there was one girl who shared her story. Yesenia, not the Yesenia we just shared, but Yesenia like a year and a half ago.
Mm.
And we stopped. It was after, so I always have talks after. We could talk about whatever.
Yeah.
And I evangelize, right? Sometimes that's what happens when I share my story. That's like included. Um, but she told me what she experienced. She said that her backstory was she remembers getting molested from the age of 3 on up.
Oh man.
She tried to intentionally jump out a window when she was like 11.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was either her stepdad or somebody close to the family who was obviously that close to be able to do those things. And when you grow up being hurt, like your worldview becomes very skewed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she said that she was just super depressed. How do you process all that stuff?
Yeah.
And she said that she did shrooms one day, and I'm listening to her talk after. She's standing right here. I'm standing right. I'm putting stuff away at this point.
Yeah.
And she says that when she did the shrooms, she said that she felt love for the first time. I know you didn't use the word love, but for her, she said that she felt love. She felt that peace.
Yeah.
And she finally felt that everything was going to be all right.
Yeah.
And I looked her straight in the face and I was like, yeah, I think that's, from my perspective, I would say that's Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Because when I hear these experiences, it's the same shit I just explained to you before we started recording.
Yeah.
I'm minus the imagery, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's the same, like, where you at least have to say that, man, there's something so much more that I don't understand, but I know that it's not against me.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Mushrooms are fascinating thing, really. But I've seen Jesus on them too. I remember one vision I had. It was, I mean, I don't recognize all the figures, but I think it was a string of messiahs. And so it was like it had Jesus there sitting in the meditation pose, and then it had like Krishna and um, I don't really know any other ones, but,
Right, right.
it was like this whole slew of figures, and there was like this golden thread going through their heart and all their chakras. There was like showing the connections kind of between them all of this similar thing. And I think maybe because of my cultural heritage, it had what was
Right.
relevant to me.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same kind of energy that we're all talking about here. Um, and I really like it. Totally changed my life, like, because I was hell bent on revenge for my for what happened to my cousins, and still was even well into adulthood. And it wasn't until I did the mushrooms that I was like, is this really what I want to do? Like I can either I can either direct my energy towards hunting these people down that no one wants to talk about and stuff like that, or I can be an artist and direct that energy towards being an artist. But the thing is, I only get so much energy, and I get to choose where I direct it at. And what I decided really, because I couldn't leave his case alone. I really can't. Like, it bothers me to not do anything about it. And so I'm still pursuing it now, but I have a different intention because of those experiences on the mushrooms. So when I was a kid, I just wanted to kill them all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really hunt them all down, find out if it was them, fucking kill them. And then now I don't want to kill them. It's like, all right, I want to find out who did it, and then I want to write a book about it and put them on blast.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 18 years since 2004. I don't know, 17, 18, something like that. That I've been dealing with the grief and the loss with no story or no resolution for it. I find little tidbits here and there. I've heard stuff from psychics tell me, like he's an angel now. I've had visions of an angel made of fire with a sword and everything, which I think is him, but I'm not sure. Um, but it's like it really messes you up, and you need some kind of resolution, you know. But I really believe it can help a lot of people, um, figure things out. I will say though, I've also seen the dark side
Yeah.
of that, and so in fact, recently, um, I mean, myself too. When I get into the more sinister thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
I was seeing demons and insects pouring out the wall and spiders and people's faces missing and like just creepy shit. Like your imagination can cut both ways, and whatever you happen to be tuned, like it's like your energy, and if you like amplify that, if you're in a dark space, it's gonna be real dark, and you can't turn it off once you turn it on. And my boy Michael Mack, who was in the Navy, um, he came out here with one of his friends. They told people, like, I guess it's misunderstood that mushrooms are legal in Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
but they're decriminalized in the city of Denver. It's a big difference. But he came to Pueblo, and he did magic mushrooms with his friend, and his friend shot him in the head. And that was uh, 2020. I want to say 2020, November 2020. It was on the news and everything. Odessa firefighter charged with murder of a coworker or something like that. And so I know Michael Mack, who was murdered, and I know Evan Gaw, who murdered him.
Yeah.
Evan Gaw was the dude who checked me in at AC1 when I got stationed in San Diego. He was the guy who gave me my tour, and he's a fucking murderer now. And yeah, well, I mean, I never liked Gaw. I never liked his friend Daniels. They were reckless. Um, and inconsiderate. And so to me, I just avoided them. And I don't know what was going on with Mac. I know he was an artist. I know he was depressed, but he's a good dude. I think he was just mixed up with the bad company. And like, you should never mix psychedelics with firearms or insecure people. Like you gotta be safe about it if you're gonna do it, because you can die from it. If you're with the wrong person and they freak out and they think you're a demon or something like that and shoot you in the fucking head, you know. So I've definitely seen the dark side. I've seen what it's done for me personally, which was that peaceful moment. But I've also seen, you know, what happened to my friend.
Yeah, that's my take on it is on doing shrooms, right? I mean, growing up in the hood, going and being in the prison system, all that. There's dudes who do drugs, they never come back.
Yeah, they lose their mind.
They lose it.
Yeah.
So I've never really done psychedelics. It's just been interesting to me when I hear people describe their experiences, the good ones. It's exactly the same as the spiritual experience I had, not being on drugs. However, I was deeply depressed, and I think that primes, like, your brain's working in different, not normally, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like ready to hold on to anything to try really and survive
Yeah.
and live.
Yeah.
But the feeling, but the feeling of that peace is out of this world. However, my advice to people is like, you have that experience. Because I hear this all the time, right? You have that experience.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that to be closer to absolute truth than anything.
Yeah, I agree.
It's what you experience in that moment.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, you know that now.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you got to go back?
Yeah.
Like, get your marching orders, right?
Yeah.
This is the fucking truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you can set your life that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had that experience with God, and that's what I know really, truly to be the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That I'll die for.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm alive. Like, I hold on to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If there was a drug to take me back to that, like, why would I already know.
Yeah.
I've been there. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's just, okay, well, how do I structure my life now positively? Because it is crazy, like feeling love, especially if you've never really felt it. Like, we're all searching for it.
Yeah.
And I had that moment where I was like, this is why people believe.
Yeah. Well, if you take them too long, they'll turn on you.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
You know.
You get those, like, that is the truth, but then there's also an opposite, right? So,
Yeah. Well, the truth cuts both ways. There's the truth of love, and then there's the truth of fear.
Yeah.
And hate. And it's like fear is the absence of love.
Yeah.
And people do crazy shit when they're afraid, And I definitely, like, it's funny because it's a problem for me now. Like, I don't get the visions I used to get. And now I just feel different. I'm able to release the emotions that I bottle up throughout the day, which I don't even, like, it's so automatic for me to bottle my emotions, that I don't even notice that I'm doing it. And I learned through, like, reading books and therapy and stuff, like, that's a survival mechanism. When you feel in danger, you shut down your emotions, and then when you feel safe, then you express those emotions. And I realized, like, that's what I'm doing when I'm getting high, is like, okay, I feel safe now. And then it's usually crying, like, all the stuff comes out, and, like, no one's there to judge me, and I get to release that stuff, and it's not really something I would do with other people I didn't trust. I would say it would be great if there was a way to access that stuff without using the drugs. But I haven't found it yet. I never was like a church goer or anything like that. And I've had plenty of people try to recruit me from both the lower and the upper.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was invited to like Freemason lodges and further into Satanism and stuff like that. And for me, like it's just I don't know. I like avoid clicking up in general, even on the spiritual side. You know, I definitely I had a bad acid trip that lasted 36 hours. And now they normally last 12, 8 to 12. I had gotten this gel tab, and I was like, I thought it was like 1 to 1. It's more like 1 to 100. And so within 15 minutes, I knew I was fucked because I was higher than I'd ever been before in my life. And the first 12 hours were pretty beautiful. And then I guess I just ran out of positivity juice. But it kept going. It went for another 24 hours, and I swear to God, I was in hell. You know. Um,
How did that look like?
well, like the beautiful part or the hellish part.
Both.
Well, it was very vivid. But so it was like the first part of the trip that was pleasant. I could see people's energy. I could see people's spirits geometrically. I could see through solid objects. When people were talking, it would come out like this calligraphy, very beautiful and ornate letters, very glyphic style, and then it would put it up in like a channel, and it would trickle out into infinity. I didn't see where it ended, but everything was a channel, and I could tune into any of these channels that I wanted to. I could see this spiritual architecture almost, and a city over the city, made of like ornate golden light and everything like that. And I'm like, that's fucking amazing, you know. And that part was beautiful when I was seeing other spiritual beings in there and everything. And then when it started turning to the darker side, it was like pimps and hoes. I remember was like it's like the element of like pursuing something relentlessly and then like submitting to something relentlessly, and that was like the spectrum of a pimp and a hoe. And it was like showing that energetically with everything that I was looking at, which was a bit much. And then, as my as I started to wear out, I would say I started seeing like vampires and clowns, and like even if I closed my eyes, I would see them, and I was like sweating like profusely. I got like a thermometer, I checked my temperature, and it was 98.6. It was fine. And I'm like, why the fuck am I soaked in sweat then? And like, just like my body dimensionally felt super weird, and I didn't know if I was ever going to come back. I started to panic, really. um I had never felt that desperate in my life, so it's interesting that this, the drugs can gift you the serenity, but they can also gift you, well, I guess, yeah, gift maybe not be the right word there, but it can show you what it's like to feel like absolutely nothing too. And so, like, and I don't, I'm sure you've probably been high, at least on like weed or something. But that timelessness feel to it, I felt like I was there forever. Like I kept checking the clock and everything, and I swear I check it 100 times a minute. Like I was there for eternity, and I felt old ever since I had that trip. Like I still kind of twitch a little bit. Um, but yeah, it was scary, like you felt small, and I wasn't sure what was real anymore, or if I would ever know what real was. And I remember I did surrender, I would say, to God at that moment, because I remember at one point I fell to my knees and I was yelling like, just fucking make it stop. And Eventually it did. But I couldn't tell you how exhausted I was, and I slept like 16 hours the next day. Yeah. I was lucky it was a 4 day weekend when that happened. But yeah, I haven't done acid since because I was like, fuck that. I want to be able to come back. Like I was grateful just to sweep the floor after that trip. There's some kind of normalcy. So I would say that was certainly humbling as well. If you're looking for a humbling experience, it's just like mind expanding drugs. I mean, there's a reason why you have those barriers in place. And you don't want those, like, it's fun to flick in those worlds every now and then, but you don't want to stay there because we're not built for them yet. Like if that was meant to be our waking reality, I think it would be by now, or we could graduate into it. But it's not something you want to suddenly be in there. It's like if you took a kindergartner and put them in the NFL front line, they're not gonna be okay. So it was like that psychologically. I think it's the benefit to that is I'm pretty understanding with people now, because like as to the best of my abilities, but like I've definitely been able to understand people a lot better now that I had that 36-hour trip. I mean, I can't tell you everything, but it was just overwhelming.
What's your perception on God and what that means?
On what God is,
Yes,
or
sir.
who God
Yes,
is,
sir. Yeah.
I think I believe there is a God. I believe there is a benevolent energy watching over creation that wants us to have a good time. The best explanation I heard of it, I mean, I've heard the New Age stuff too, or like we're all God or we're all part of God, but I don't think that's necessarily true. Um, I do believe that we're a part of God, but I don't believe that we are God. And I've heard that, and it's like, how do you know you're not God? I'm like, well, if I was God,
See, clearly.
I wouldn't be putting up with this fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I would definitely be exercising my powers if I was God a lot more. Like I wouldn't be fat. I wouldn't have man boobs. Like, like there's a lot of things I would change if I had the power to change it, but I don't. And I know that. We actually have a very limited range of power, and I've been learning that, unfortunately, most of my life. How small that range really is. But if you can rock that range, you'd be all right. But like I don't think of God as like some white dude in the clouds. You know what I mean? I like the Aztec idea. It is they say Omateo, and people teach that the Aztec religion was polytheistic. If it's not true, so um, the Aztec believe in the creator of Ometeo. And Ometeo basically created the universe in its imagination. And it's two serpents intertwining, which is like what I saw burst up my spine, which is how I ended up learning about that stuff. And the caduceus too. Like I didn't know any of that stuff. But it's an old idea. It's a very old idea. And you hear it now in the New Age circles. Like I think there's that channel on YouTube, Kierkegaard, and they talk about the egg, which I think is a great explanation of this kind of idea. But it's also a terrifying explanation if you think about it, because it's like I don't know if you've seen the egg, but basically they're saying like you're this infinite being, you're part of God, or you are God, and you incarnate into each life. So like how you behave in your life to another person, that's going to be you at some other point. And it's not exactly linear in time, but it's an interesting idea to play with. I like to think of it as like a God spark. So like God's like this huge, massive entity, right? And I don't really see it as male or female, but like male and female in unity or whatever, like perfect balance, perfect harmony or whatever. And they made creation because otherwise there's nothing to do. There's nothing to accomplish. And so to me, God created creation so there was something to do. And being an infinite being and stuff like that wants to promote a benevolent thing, because if you're the one experiencing all those things, you go around stabbing people, you're a serial killer, right? Yeah. So you enjoy that as a serial killer. All right. Next lifetime, you're one of your own victims. Yeah. Are you enjoying it that time? So that kind of mentality, I was like, well, I don't know if that's true, but I find it useful. Like, I don't think that God would want us to suffer in that perspective, because if you are the experiencer, like you want to try things, you want to push your boundaries and stuff like that, but you also don't want to spend infinity in terror and suffering, you know. So I think that's the balancing act of it, of God kind of playing in these different characters and having these different experiences, and then living as another character in the same play. You want to balance it out so you're not having a horrible time, you know. Um, and so I think that's like the origin of benevolence, and that's what I think about God a lot. I do believe there is an afterlife. I don't know exactly what it is, but and like I said, I wasn't a spiritual person before, even though I grew up in a Scientologist family, and they teach that we are a soul called a thetan that has a body. And then in the Christian things, it's more of, I mean, I'm speaking as an outsider here, but my impression, depending on which Christian you were talking to, you're a body who has a soul. And I think it's a distinct difference of identifying yourself as a soul that has a body. This is like a vehicle to be in the world, as opposed to, well, I guess the opposite. But so when it comes to spirituality, like having that idea but not experiencing it, of I'm a soul who has a body. I didn't experience that till I smoked weed for the first time when I was 14. And I'm smoking it, and like my perception completely changed, and it was super disorienting. So I thought I was sitting facing this direction, and I was, but it felt perspective, and like the way you feel with your orientation, I felt like I was facing down. And it's super disorienting, but it's like that perspective shift where it's like, really all I know about reality is what I can perceive about it. And so, like, if you like learn about the optical illusions and just how many fucking blind spots you have and that your mind fills up for you, it's like you don't even know what you're missing. Like, there's so much out there that you have no fucking clue. And like when I did the psychedelics and I could see all this stuff, like you said, it was true at that moment. It may not be the reality that we're in all the time, but that is true in its own right. And if you think of it as all of us in God's imagination, there's different realms and layers in that imagination. And I guess I got to peek through them for a little bit. But ever since then, I don't believe that we are just a body. Like I've had out of body experiences. I've seen spirits. I've seen these fantastic visions like they talk about in the Bible. My first time doing acid, I was quoting the Bible and I didn't even read it. You know what I'm saying? So I was saying these things and my friends are like, "That's in the Bible." I'm like, "Really? How the fuck did I know that?" You know what I mean? And it's like you tap into something. And I hate it when I'm sober for long periods of time, and I kind of regress back into that everything's physical, and you got to take that time to really remind yourself that there is more than what you can see, there's like a whole unseen world, and there's a good one and a bad one, and I'd rather end up in the good one,
I don't know if we already. The next question is if you could talk about a truly difficult time. I don't know if that would be when you lost your cousin, since.
Oh shit, man. I mean, my life is, at least from my perspective, pretty difficult. So Right now, the circumstances I would say in my life are better than ever before. But I also know 17 people who have died in the past year. So I got serious mixed feelings about right now, you know. But and none of them died from COVID. It's all been health problems, murder, suicide, those kinds of things. But like month after month, and like people, like both, all three remaining grandparents all died in the past year. And I was there when my grandma died. I was there when my grandpa died. Well, I took him to the hospital and he died at the hospital. But I seen their bodies, and I've seen dead bodies in like media and stuff like that, and like animals and shit. I never seen a person I'd known my entire life just dead before this year. Um, I would say the hardest, like I'm dealing with it pretty well compared to what happened with my cousin. Um, I did not handle that well, so I would definitely say that was harder. It was one death, but it was just like how it was dealt with, how I felt about it, what I didn't have all the knowledge I have now. I constantly listen to audiobooks, you know. But yeah, that I just like at that age I just felt so lost and powerless. Like I couldn't do anything about it. As an adult, it sucks to have all these people die, but I can go do stuff. I'm not at the mercy. It's crazy. Like, I never got no mercy as a kid, but as an adult, I tell people like, "Hey, this is what's going on with me," and they're like, "Holy fuck!" Like, yeah, you can have some time off. Yeah, you can have an extension. And I'm like, "Fuck, where the hell was this shit when I was 10 years old?" But yeah, it's just uh, I would have a hard time just telling you a good time that I had. But like like to me, the good times is when I'm chilling, playing my games, cooking my food, and high. But I would say when I'm not doing that, it's all struggle, and that's what I'm going out there and facing.
So what are the tools you use spiritually to deal with all that?
Well, I like to draw it out. Um, I used to do that a lot, and I got in trouble for that as a kid because I would draw out all the negative stuff. It was like a purgative thing.
Mm-hmm.
I love doing that. I haven't been drawing as much, but recently, and I'd like to get back on it. I just fell off. But as a kid, that was my main coping mechanism was creating art. Another thing is I love to act, so I would not like I was never professional or anything, but like hanging out with my friends and stuff like that, I do voices and different characters for them, imitating people. And people always enjoyed it, and I always had a fun time doing it. So another one is comedy. I love comedy. I make a lot of dark jokes, especially like about my burns and stuff. Like, so I'm the second born of four kids, so I call myself the well done second son. And so, like, I like to play around with that, and people are like, "That's really fucked up." It's great that you could joke about it though, but like it's I like to joke about it. It's a bad habit for I think it annoys a lot of other people, but I also talk a lot of shit. So when like I'm upset or something, I'll turn into like a river mouth and like let people know how I feel. Um, and one thing that we learned in the Navy is dudes would constantly roast each other just for fun, and so I'm really good at like coming up with insults on the spot, and I have a lot of fun with that. Maybe not everybody else, but another thing is writing rhymes. That's one of my favorite things to do. It's crazy because it's like a whole different person. Like me as a normal person, I'm a little clumsy, you know. But like when I'm rapping, like it's like what I want to be as a person, and then like all the insights that I find, and like I'll write them down, and they'll start flowing, and I'm like, did I just fucking say that? Like I'm surprised I made it. I don't know if you want to hear any of them, but I do got some on me.
That's up to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll show you some then.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I've taken to writing it all down in my phone on Evernote and just practicing. I've recorded a few songs, but I'm not a professional at all. It's just something that I do
Yeah.
for like therapy and stuff. I think I put it all out on like Spotify and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and I made 32 cents.
Okay.
So I'm a baller over here. But yeah,
32 cents ain't bad.
yeah.
Yeah, there's people listening. You gotta get a lot of fucking listens to get 32 cents. I'm
I think it's just my friends. But yeah, all right, so here's a rhyme, and I find it to be like it's it shows who I want to be. It shows how I think. It's very informative. My rhymes. I'm not just. I do talk about bitches and stuff, but it's like
okay.
standard rap stuff.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
also like
yeah,
it's more than that.
yeah.
So any weak ass green eyes go for mine, and its finger snaps for at least 5. Few know the toll the reaper take. Louds think they woke till they see me at the wake. Got more regrets than you got memories. Make a better friend than an enemy. Gladly take out any trash that you sending me. The scythe equipped with heavenly remedies that changes karma for centuries. Beyond the pale and circles so strange, my warnings are so fair, I'm drowning in change. In rage I steep, love the Lord for giving me claws and teeth. A beast who loves his feast doesn't pray for peace, only reach. Respect the only real law of the jungle. Hubris, a cookie and milk quick to crumble. Butterfingers only know the fumble. Fold like laundry and tumble. A truth that cannot be seen if it was a headline. No light matters to the most blind. I dot the I's and cross the T's on mysteries you'll never see. Sifting through mountains of debris beyond 33 degrees. You wouldn't know what brought the shaman to the village. Get you some scars in the scrimmage. Every devil I met was a spoiled brat of privilege. Ready to kill but wouldn't know a thing about living. From libraries is where I take my sips. A million manuscripts on my lips. Life and death are one hell of a trip. I don't know it all, but I felt its tits.
You wanna do another one?
Yeah, if you want to hear one.
Yeah,
All right. Exceso azucares sin alivo, the diabolic making puppets of people. Safety in his illusion that refuses to retire. The truth is we stay in the line of fire. Here's the Judas to your ambitions. The masses are ruthless. The hosts of inherited mind viruses walk beside us. Tell them your love and they stomp it to pieces. We are sick as our secrets. What are you hiding? That makes you sleepless, giving our home away to demons. Your beliefs leave you seedless. The nightclubs stay full while dreams stay empty. Bullshit is trendy, so blow through your 20s. Unfaithful to the last straw with no eyes at all for fantastic visions drawn. Pawns for world eaters, victim mentality, bleeder, eager sleepers on the bed of cheaters. Mindset sable, your lifestyle is fatal. Are you aware of the evil you enable with what you allow at your table? Sunshine wants with regrets that haunt. This your world too, you damn fool. Bitch made to the molecule. We all possess the tools to shape the way and make the rule, but you prefer your muzzle lost in the shackles and shuffle. No game or hustle. NPCs that are obstacles in the maze and puzzle. I hear you scoffing, but peep the peril you're causing. Enough talking, this the line crossing. Are you awake, you weak flake? Which road you gonna take? So a lot of this stuff is like stuff I can't normally say to people.
yeah.
So I really like to write this stuff.
Could you tell me, when I say yes, I was thinking about that the other day. Because when I do these interviews, I was like, I envision, well, having a crowd one day.
I mean, you kind of do though.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I mean they're not in the room with us, but when they see the video,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
think about it, you're capturing a moment that.
And one dude just looked at me weird when I was doing the interview, and I just kept on rolling with it. I was like, fuck it. I was like, I'll just change it to me now. But
When you said us, I was imagining all the people that be
yeah,
around their
yeah,
computers and
okay,
on
there
their
we go.
phone.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, that's okay.
yeah.
I like to stick with us, but I've been thinking about that this past week, and I was like, should I just say me, or even if we were in a because one of the dreams that I have is to be doing this,
Hmm.
but on stage.
Oh, in front of like a
Yeah,
live
we
audience.
have a live audience.
Oh
We
wow.
would do this exact same thing,
Yeah,
and then
that's like taking it to the next level.
you know what I mean?
That'd be awesome, man.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick with the us, but that I was thinking about it for a while.
I think us is fine. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
So the next question is, could you tell us about just a truly joyous moment in your life and how that felt?
Joyous moment. Hold on, it's taking me a while to find something.
A small thing. It doesn't even have to be extravagant.
I would say I can't think of anything extravagant, but I can think of just like the other day with my little brother, having, because he doesn't have a dad. So his dad dipped out when he was 3, and fled the country. And so me and my siblings are like collectively his father, you know. So, teaching him how to cook, um, you know, I mean, he has a recipe to follow, but he doesn't know, like, it's different. Like, the map never really matches the terrain, so you got to change based off of what's actually there. Um, but, like, seeing, like, when I was his age, I could not cook for shit. He's 13 now, and he just cooked these amazing burgers, and they were delicious, and he enjoyed the whole process, and we're like listening to hip hop and everything, and my mom came by and she's all thanking me for teaching him and saying I love you and all that. And then we were supposed to play Assassin's Creed afterwards, but I just fell asleep on his bed. So he played Assassin's Creed, but it was just nice. um, no real problems that day, nothing that sticks in my mind. And so, like, that to me brings me joy. I've never been like a huge exciting person or anything like that. I'm kind of like slow and but I'm thorough, and I just I don't feel that excitement. I think that has to do with my cousin's situation happening at a key development growth time in my life. I'm very subdued. The only time you'll see me excited is when I'm high out my mind. Like, I'm just in my feelings and in the moment. But like, sober Sean is like very reserved, you know.
What keeps you up at night?
Injustice, I would say. Um, Motherfuckers getting away with stuff that they know they shouldn't be doing, and then them gloating about it. I hate that shit.
Isn't that a lot of rap?
Huh?
Isn't that a lot of hip hop?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that, I think it's a good container for it. But yeah, there's a lot of privilege, and I fucking hate it. I've seen a lot of people struggle and do their best and get completely overlooked, and I'm one of them. But there's 1,000 others, and then there's all these dickheads that get all the attention and all the money, and I don't feel like they deserve it. And so that kind of stuff bothers me. Like, when I perceive someone as privileged and they slight me, that shit does bother me. And I ruminate about it, and I try not to, like, think about something else. That's why I always listen to audiobooks, because if I didn't constantly keep myself entertained with this thing, all I would think about is every fucking slight and what I want to do about it. So I like to keep myself entertained and distracted. My cousin's homicide keeps me up. I had a lot of insomnia. I'm actually getting it fixed now. Um, Apparently I have like some problems with my jaw and sinuses and everything, and it actually pops every time I open it. And so I got a device literally today to help start the process of reshaping it. But yeah, after Josh got murdered, I stayed up for a week one time, and like after 3 days, you're really out of it after 3 days of sleep. Like, you're seeing shit that's not there. You're uncoordinated, and I actually got put into online school and pulled out of public school because I couldn't handle it. I was falling asleep while people were talking to me. My parents like dragged me all over the place. Like, I was out of it, man. And so, yeah, I just forgot what my point was.
What keeps you going every day?
I fucking want my shit. The way I see it is, there's a saying I put in my rhymes. I'm not working hard to be a tragedy. So I know so many tragedies. Like my cousin, he could have been a great artist. He could have been working on movies and stuff, entertaining us for the rest of our lives, and instead he's dead. You know, I know so many people that have dreams that too fucking scared to pursue it like they're gonna live forever or something, and that you're not, you know. And so I know people that can sing, like both men and women, that are beautiful singers that are never singing in public, only sing in private. And I think a lot of the beauty of our world kind of gets um, hidden away. And so I like to be like, fuck it, and kind of show an example of like you can go for it, you can go and get it, you know. And um, a lot of life is just there for the taking. And so I want to go and get it. And so like I live. I mean, I wish I could say it was love that kept me going. I guess in a way it is like the love of what I want, the state of being I want
You
to be
could
in.
say the love of that moment.
Yeah,
That
yeah. But like it's definitely spite too, where it's like all the people that said I couldn't do something, and you know, all the people that actively tried to stop me from growing as an artist and as a man and everything else. Because there was a lot of people, it was mainly when I was a kid, because that's when they can get away with that shit. And so as an adult, especially with my little brother, I like to teach him like how to like how to navigate people's trickery and all the treachery and stuff like that. How do you navigate that without fucking up your life and someone else's too much, you know? So that's what keeps me going. The fact that every day that you get up, you have another chance. You have 24 hours. You can do anything with, and you may not be able to reach everything that you want to reach in that day, but you can put yourself in a better position by the end of the day than what you started at the beginning of the day. And so I want to get those goals more than I want to stay where I'm at.
imagine you're in the hospital today with only hours to live. What would be your regrets, if any?
I have a lot of regrets. Um, like I said, kind of slow. Um, Took me a while to have epiphanies to realize things. I think I couldn't tie my shoes till I was like 8 years old, and I don't know if that like I honestly think the burns as a kid might have something to do with that. Honestly, it just takes me a long time to process things, but once I get them, I got them. But it just takes a while to reach that point. But I would say my biggest regrets have been um, situations that I had with some girls growing up, and there was one big one when I was in Arizona. There was this girl I had a crush on, and we would walk home to school every day, and one day her boyfriend came up and was mad that she was with me instead of waiting on him. He had a car and everything, so she could have gotten a ride home. My, I was stupid. I didn't realize that she liked me. You know, I thought she was just being a friend, and so. But this was probably one of the most devastating days for her as a kid because he started shoving her. He was like mad at her and just shoving her. And he was a smaller guy than me. I could have easily fucked him up, but for some reason I just put on my blinders and kept walking like nothing was happening. I was like 14 years old, and I still feel like a fucking coward for that. Because like I had the size advantage of taking martial arts. Like, why didn't I defend her? You know? And so I still regret that I didn't step in. Um, I haven't really talked to her since that moment, you know. And I remember too, I just like I didn't understand why the fuck I was doing that, because I was always like the guy to fight for something. That's what I was known for, and I just didn't understand why I didn't do it. And I remember I closed the garage door, and like I was looking at her walking by my house and everything, just crying and shit. It didn't help her. And ever since then, I've always been like a nosy person with other people's shit because I can't stand to let that happen again. Like I can take the L once, but I'm not doing it again. Like I have to help.
So, you're alive and well, do you feel that you can either change, make amends, or be at peace with just your regrets in general at this point?
Yeah, yeah.
You told me what your dreams were as a kid. What are your dreams now?
Well, it's funny because it seems like the most obvious thing to me, but like a lot of people think it's weird. But I want to be an artist, you know. And but the main thing that I want to do is kind of break away from the consumer lifestyle as much as possible. I wouldn't say I'd cut ties entirely and live like off the grid and everything, but I do want my own land. I do want a tiny home. I have experience with maintaining all those systems from being in the Navy, power, water, um, sewage, all that stuff. And so I'd like to have my own tiny home with, and it might happen this year, selling my house in Virginia, and I'm going to take that money and get some land here and get a tiny home. And the idea for that is I would have a space that's mine, because my whole life I've had to share with my siblings. And then when I got my house in Virginia, I didn't get to really enjoy it because I was always working for the Navy. And so now that I'm here, I came back here to Colorado to help out with my grandparents and go to college. And both of my grandparents have passed away, like I said. And now we're in the process of clearing out their house so that I'm gonna sell my house in Virginia, get my tiny home out here, and like build my own little affordable paradise. you know, so I want to have my art studio in there. I want to, I have a website and everything, but I want to improve the website. I just updated it with a logo today, but I want to put more of my personal story on there because right now I have like one sentence for like all my descriptions on there, and they're like, who the fuck is this guy? So I need to show people my story and like they know who I am, who they're buying their stuff from, because nowadays when people are like my brand is called Ferocious Art, and it's a play on Pharaoh, which is my art name, but also ferocious. And it's the energy that I like to bring into my artwork. It's like, hey, people trying to step on you, trying to bring you down, and you're like, fuck that. And that's what my art represents. And I need to let people know. And so that I would like to be more expressive and like try to improve my marketing like that and storytelling, which is a big reason why I'm doing this here.
Um, you're the co-author of your life story. If you can envision a picture perfect ending, so how it's not the end, quote unquote, it's just like if it was a movie, like what's that scenic scene?
Oh, hell yeah. All right. I love this. So, I've always had a shit ton of ideas that I never got to do anything with. And so, like I said, I got the land, right? I want to build a studio in there for art and for recording. So I can do my music, I can do narration, which is something I'm learning about right now, and voice acting and stuff like that. I think that'd be awesome since I've consumed so many audiobooks to help produce some too and make some money doing it. And I would like to have a wife and some kids. I'd like to grow my own food, produce, my own power from solar panels and wind energy and stuff like that. Even produce my own water. I've learned about like these water condensation machines, and you can like fill up a tank. It's fucking cool. And so like just making my own systems, I think is awesome. And then being an artist on top of that. So I figured out how to get internet out into rural areas and stuff like that, so I can still maintain an online presence and watch YouTube and all that stuff. But like, you know, people already like me now as an artist, and I've honestly like been pretty antisocial. Um, and there's a lot of opportunities like I wasn't ready for when they came up. And so I feel with better outreach, I would get those opportunities again, and then I could work for video games if I wanted to, Or movies. I'd love to make some movies. I already got like 30 fucking ideas for movies. Um, but then looking into it, I'm like, there's no way I could do this by myself. Like, if I wanted to draw a movie by myself, it would take me about 30 to 50 years if I finished it at all. So you need teams for this stuff. So in this ideal scenario, I meet those people.
Yeah.
We can make those movies and we'll have some dope fucking movies. Like, I don't want to give all the ideas away and stuff, but I'll give you guys one. So it's a concept I call high writer for like the Chicano culture and everything. And so it's about this boy who's a graffiti artist. You can see some parallels with my own life. But he's trying to create a flying car and doesn't have the resources to do so. And so he learns about this guy, Victor Schausberg, who's a real person, who was a real person, who created this vortex technology, and he's where we get the UFO myths and stuff like that from. He's shanghaied into service to the Nazis, and then apparently he had a working design for a flying saucer. And then he sells all his stuff to a company in Texas and dies a year later. So he learns, gets the blueprints from this guy's thing, and then learns how to create one, knows how to create one, doesn't have the funding for it, tries to go through his school. They're like, shut up, kid, you know. And then so he goes to the local gangs and they fund it on the condition that they get a lowrider or one of the flying cars. And so he's actually funded by the drug dealers, and then he gets it done, and it gets stolen by the government because they're like, nah, people ain't supposed to know about this. And so then he teams up with the Cholos to go and steal it back, and then it, you know, closes out with the Cholos with the UFO decked out like a lowrider and flying away.
How would that feel? All those dreams come true.
It'd be fucking great, man. It'd be like, you know, like there's so many people that are like scared to live and they die with all these regrets. But like, I feel like once you accomplish the dreams, I would reach an attitude where it's like, I don't care if I die tomorrow. I've done everything that I want to do. You know, like I honestly want to reach that level where, because like as a kid, I felt like so held back and all this angst and like this burning desire where it burned me up to do things. Like I want to do these things and I can't access them. I just can't reach them. And so to be able to reach them, like, it's so cool. Like if I could have this is probably how a lot of celebrities feel these days, where it's like, you know what, that's a great idea. Like right now, with my social level, I'll talk to people and like, that's a great idea, and that's where it stays. You know, but when you reach a certain level of connection with people and status and money and power and all that stuff, then you're like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's make it happen. And then you actually can bring it from imagination into creation. And I think that's awesome. So I don't know exactly how it would feel, but I imagine be like, cool. And like, I don't think it would ever be a stopping to it. You would just go like, all right, we worked on this project, work on this project until I fucking die. Yeah. What I want to do, you know?
Heaven on earth.
Yeah. I mean, or the closest thing I'm gonna get to it. Yeah, creating the stories that have always been in my head that I never see other people do. And that's just one. I got 32 other ones. You know what I mean? So, and I can come up with more if that's my job. If I have that connection with those people, like, I think it'd be fun to just keep creating until I can't no more.
Awesome. That's it.
Yeah. Sweet.